My husband's wealthy family bullied me for being poor for years. Then I discovered he'd been hiding a secret first marriage, massive debts, and now I'm divorcing him to start a business with his sister. I used to believe I had the perfect love story. The kind of romance you see in those cheesy Hallmark movies, except it was happening to me. We met at a mutual friend's wedding. He was tall, charming, and had that smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. I wasn't looking for anything serious at the time. I was busy with my own life, working a modest job, paying my bills, and enjoying the little freedoms that come with being independent. But he made it hard not to fall. From the start, he treated me like I was precious. Flowers, just because, random phone calls in the middle of the day to say he missed me, weekend getaways that felt like something out of a romance novel. It didn't take long before I was all in. He came from a well-off family, something I honestly didn't think too much about at first. My own family was comfortable, but we were nowhere near their level of wealth. His parents owned a successful chain of businesses, and his relatives all seemed to have impressive careers and expensive hobbies. He told me it didn't matter, that he loved my independence, my work ethic, and my down-to-earth nature. For the first few months, everything was perfect. We were that annoyingly happy couple people roll their eyes at. He proposed after a year, in the middle of a beach at sunset, with a ring that sparkled so bright I almost couldn't look at it. I said yes without a second thought. But things started to shift once the engagement became public. At first, it was subtle, little comments at family gatherings. His mom would joke about me not knowing the right wine glasses for a formal dinner. An aunt asked me, in a voice dripping with sweetness, if I'd ever considered taking some etiquette classes before the wedding. I laughed it off, telling myself they were just teasing. After we got married, the comments became less subtle. At dinners, they would make side remarks about people who don't understand fine dining or girls who just marry for security. Once, his cousin asked me how it felt to marry up right in front of everyone, as if I wasn't even there. The worst part? My husband never said anything. He'd just squeeze my hand under the table or whisper, "Don't take it personally, they don't mean it." But it was hard not to. These were supposed to be my family now. Yet they made me feel like I was constantly auditioning for a role I'd never be good enough for. Then, one night, something strange happened. We were at his parents' house for a big family dinner. I had just brought in a tray of dessert when his uncle, who had clearly had a few too many glasses of wine, laughed and said, "Well, at least she's not as bad as the first one." The room went silent. I froze, dessert tray in hand, my brain scrambling to process what I just heard. First one? What first one? I looked at my husband, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Everyone else quickly changed the subject, but my stomach was already in knots. I had been with this man for 3 years. I thought I knew everything about him. But now, I couldn't shake the question spinning in my head. Who was the first one? And why had I never heard about her? That night, after we left his parents' house, I asked him about what his uncle said. I tried to keep my voice calm, but inside, my mind was racing. What did he mean by the first one? He laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that makes you feel at ease. It was short, awkward, and forced. Oh, he was just drunk. He probably meant something else. I didn't buy it, but I also didn't feel like starting a fight in the car. I let it go for the moment. Over the next few weeks, though, the tension between me and his family only grew worse. Every time we saw them, it was like they were testing me, seeing how far they could push before I snapped. His mother would forget to set a place for me at the dinner table. His aunt once looked at my handbag and asked, "Oh, is that from last season?" As if she'd caught me committing a crime. His cousin started making jokes about how I must be thrilled to have married into their last name, because now people might actually remember mine. And through it all, my husband stayed silent. He never defended me. When I brought it up afterward, he would sigh and say things like, "Why do you let them get to you?" Or "That's just how they are." But how they are was cruel. And the more I kept quiet, the more they seemed to think it was okay to treat me this way. Then came the barbecue. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon at his parents' backyard. The whole family was there. Cousins, uncles, grandparents, even some business partners of his father's. I was helping set up the dessert table when I overheard 2 of his cousins whispering nearby. "She doesn't even know, does she?" One of them said. "Nope, and I bet he's never going to tell her," the other replied, laughing. Before I could ask what they meant, one of them looked up, noticed me, and suddenly looked guilty. I brushed it off for the moment, but my stomach was already tightening. Later, after a few too many beers, one of his cousins, the same one who made the marry up comment before, came over to me with a smirk. "You're way better than the first one," he said loudly, just like his uncle had weeks ago. "At least you don't." He stopped mid-sentence when my husband's sister shot him a sharp look. I stared at him. "The first one?" I asked, my voice steady but cold. He froze. Around us, the chatter seemed to quiet down. My husband, standing a few feet away, looked like he'd just been caught in a lie. "Don't," he muttered to his cousin, then turned to me. "It's nothing. I'll explain later." But later never came. That night, he acted like nothing had happened. He changed the subject every time I brought it up, until finally I stopped trying. But inside, my curiosity had turned into suspicion. Because here's the thing, You can't spend years with someone, live in the same house, share the same bed, and suddenly find out they've kept an entire chapter of their life hidden from you without wondering what else they might be hiding. And deep down, I already knew this first one was more than just a slip of the tongue. This was the beginning of a truth I wasn't ready for, but couldn't ignore anymore. After that barbecue, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The first one, it echoed in my mind like a loose thread I couldn't stop pulling. For a while, I tried to convince myself it didn't matter. Maybe it was an old girlfriend they were exaggerating about. Maybe it was just some inside family joke. But there was something about the way everyone froze, the way my husband shut down the conversation, that told me this wasn't just a joke. One night, when he was in the shower, I sat on the couch with my laptop and started digging. At first, I found nothing. Just basic public records, his birth certificate, some old property transactions his parents' company was involved in. But then, I found it. His name, on a marriage certificate, from 5 years before we ever met. And it wasn't just some quick fling. The woman's name sounded familiar. I realized I'd seen it before in a business article about one of the wealthiest families in our city. I sat there, staring at the screen, my stomach twisting. He had been married before, to someone from an even richer family. And in 3 years together, through dating, engagement, and marriage, he had never mentioned it. When he came out of the shower, I was still sitting there, laptop closed, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "I know about your first marriage," I said. The look on his face told me everything. He didn't even ask how I found out. He just sighed like I'd caught him doing something mildly inconvenient, not life-changing. "It was nothing," he said. "A mistake. It didn't last. I didn't think it was worth bringing up." "Not worth bringing up?" I repeated. "You've let your family insult me for years, call me poor, make me feel like I wasn't good enough, and you've been married before? To someone richer than all of us combined." He tried to brush it off, saying, "It was a long time ago. She wasn't who I thought she was. It ended badly." I pressed him. "Why did it end?" That's when he hesitated. And when he finally spoke, his answer made my skin crawl. "She found out about some financial things I was involved in. She didn't like it. Her family didn't like it. It got messy." "Financial things?" I asked. "Like what?" He looked away. "It's complicated, and it's none of your concern now." None of my concern? This was my husband, the man I shared a bank account with, telling me his past financial scandals were none of my concern. And suddenly it all clicked. The judgment from his family. The constant passive-aggressive comments. The reason they treated me like I was better than the first one. Not because they respected me, but because the first one had walked away. That night, I lay awake next to him, staring at the ceiling. I realized I had a choice. Keep pretending everything was fine, or find out just how deep his lies went. I chose the second, because if he kept a whole marriage from me, I had a sinking feeling this was only the beginning. A few days after finding out about the first marriage, I got an unexpected text. It was from his younger sister, Emily. We weren't exactly close, but unlike the rest of the family, she never made snide remarks or treated me like I was beneath them. She was polite, but always seemed distant, like she didn't want to get pulled into the family drama. Her text was short. "Can we meet for coffee? Just you and me." Curiosity won. We met at a small cafe downtown. She walked in wearing jeans and a hoodie, looking nothing like the polished, perfectly accessorized version of herself I'd seen at family events. The first thing she said after sitting down was, "I know they've been awful to you, and I'm sorry." I blinked, taken aback. "You know," she gave a small, sad laugh. "Of course I know. I grew up with them. They've always been like that. You were never the problem." That one sentence felt like a breath of fresh air, like someone had finally confirmed I wasn't imagining the cruelty. We talked for over an hour. I told her about the first marriage discovery. She wasn't shocked. In fact, she told me she'd always suspected he'd keep that from me. Then, she leaned in, lowering her voice. "There's something you should know about our family. We don't talk about certain things. And if you try to, you get shut out. I've learned to keep my head down. But I'm done playing along." She told me she'd been trying to start her own business for years, but every time she brought it up, her parents dismissed the idea. They wanted her to stay tied to the family company, under their control. I told her about my background, how I'd run small projects in my old job, helped with product launches, managed clients. Her eyes lit up. "What if we work together?" she asked. I laughed at first, thinking she was joking, but she wasn't. She had an idea for a sustainable home goods line, and she needed someone with experience to help make it happen. The more we talked, the more it made sense. Partnering with her could give me a way out, a way to stand on my own, away from her brother and his toxic family. Over the next few weeks, we started meeting in secret. We brainstormed branding, suppliers, marketing. I began setting aside money in a separate account, little by little. At the same time, I quietly consulted a divorce lawyer. Then one afternoon, Emily called me out of the blue. "I found something," she said, her voice tense. "Something you need to see." She wouldn't tell me over the phone, but the urgency in her voice made my stomach drop. When we met, she slid a manila folder across the table. Inside were printed bank statements and emails, proof that my husband had been hiding massive debts. Not just personal debt, but money he'd quietly borrowed under the family business name without telling them. Emily looked me straight in the eye. You need to protect yourself. He's not going to stop lying. And if you don't get out now, you could get dragged down with him. Holding that folder in my hands felt like holding a ticking time bomb. The bank statements, the loan documents, the emails, all proof that my husband wasn't just hiding his past from me. He was actively lying about his present. That night, I sat across from him at the dinner table and slid the folder toward him. He glanced at it, then back at me. "What's this?" he asked. "Your mess," I said. "The debts, the lies, the things you've been hiding from me and your family." His face went pale for a second before he forced a smirk. "Where did you get this?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "What matters is, I'm not going to be part of it." He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "You think you could just walk away? You're nothing without me. My family made you." I almost laughed. "Your family made me?" "No, your family tried to break me, and you let them." The smirk faded. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said, my voice steady. "The mistake was thinking you were someone worth trusting." The next morning, I met with my lawyer and started the divorce process. I moved into a small apartment across town, taking only what I needed. Every day away from that house felt lighter, like I was peeling off layers of weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. Emily was by my side through all of it. Together, we poured our energy into the business plan we'd been building in secret. We found suppliers, designed our first product line, and launched a small online store. It started slow, but word spread quickly. People loved the products, and they loved the story. Two women starting fresh, building something from the ground up. Within months, we landed a deal with a boutique chain that had once been one of my ex-husband's father's clients. Meanwhile, I heard through the grapevine that my ex's financial mess had finally come to light. The family was furious, his standing in the business had crumbled, and the whispers that once followed me were now following him. One evening, after shipping out a big order, Emily and I sat in our little office space, surrounded by boxes and packaging tape. She raised her coffee mug toward me and said, "To freedom." I smiled. "To freedom." And in that moment, I realized something. They called me poor. They treated me like I wasn't enough. But now, I was rich in the things that actually mattered: freedom, self-respect, and a future they couldn't touch. It turns out, when you take out the trash, you make room for something better to grow.